name is Jeneatt Gibson, Jeannett, Gibson, Gibson.
All right, Miss Jeneatt. What was the catalyst? What was the one of the reasons, main reasons why you wanted to come on this trip?
I wanted to come on this trip so that my son and myself could see things that we don't see back at our hometown, and to show him that the history that he reads in his books wasn't really that long ago. And it's just so different to be in a place and experience it. Even if you've seen the pictures in a textbook a million times, it's totally different to be standing on that ground.
Yeah. What was so the first part of the trip was kind of dealing with civil rights and the era of lynching in Birmingham and Montgomery. Was there anything that stood out to you, or something that you might have learned that you didn't know before, or anything? I know it's so long ago, but
Feels like lifetimes ago.
yeah.
Um, I just think I think the thing that I forget to remember is you think about lynching or you think about murder. And the thing about lynching is that it was torture and then death happened. And I think that, the minute you start thinking about it being your own child, your brother, your husband, yourself, I think of it in such a different way. With every one of those names, those people were tortured, and death was a release.
So you're very emotional in a good way,
I cry.
and you cry a lot. You cried on several occasions, which is fine. But what was one thing that really got to you? It could be a good thing or a bad thing, or just like a collective effort of like people coming together. But what was one thing that kind of really drew it out of you?
I think the first time that I cried was not even at the lynching museum. It was actually when I climbed the steps at Martin Luther King Jr.'s church. And I stood there, and it wasn't a very big church. It was pretty small, actually. And just the idea that this one man can make a difference, and it makes you hopeful. It makes you hopeful for what can happen when one person steps out of their comfort zone.
We're on a tour group with people you might know, some people you just met on the trip. What was the highlight of just kind of, I guess, blending together as one big family, going to 4 states and like 8 cities?
Yeah, it was just neat to hear other people's perspectives, things I hadn't even thought of, things I hadn't thought to think of in that way, and just processing in the car afterwards, and how conversations about racism, we started talking about the intersectionality with feminism and what it's like to be a wife and what it's like to be a stay-at-home mom who homeschools, and just sort of how there's just so many similarities in that vulnerability of being part of that population.
You're on a trip with your son Henry. Great, he's a character in the best way possible. Was there something you noticed about him, or anything that you treasured as far as like going on this adventure and journey with him?
I just love that we got to do it together. I think the processing for him, because he's younger, is going to come in the next few weeks. It's going to come in these moments and these questions. And I love that I got to be there with him, as opposed to him just going with his schoolmates and his teacher, because then he can come to me and ask me, no, I saw the same thing he saw. So when he asks me, I know exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of music, a lot of food. Were there any highlights, or were any particular dishes that you never tried or liked, or anything like that? Because I know it's big difference with the cuisine back home.
Yeah. When we pulled up to a gas station, and that's where we were going to have lunch, was so foreign to me. I mean, when you pull up to a gas station, you talk about food, you're getting Cactus Cooler and Fritos. In California, you're not getting like seafood delicacies, and it was amazing. It was so good. I was shocked. I was kind of scared to eat at a gas station.
As was I, because I was like, I'm not stopping there. But it was good. Two more questions. What does civil rights mean to you?
Civil rights means everyone having the same opportunities to dream.
Is there anything that, when you go back to your community, what is something that you took away from this trip that you would like to share with your people back home?
It's not ancient history. That the lynchings, stories, the characters in our history books happened yesterday in history terms, and it's still happening. History's happening all around us, and I guess what side of the book do you want to be on?